Operation 85.
Heads up Operation 85.
The national program called Operation 85 helps link families to crew members killed.
Joining me now, Kevin Klein.
Operation 85.
So, Kevin, you are not a professional genealogist. You're not a historian. You're a husband. You're a father. You're a small businessman. You're also a musician. I found that interesting. You tickled the ivories at a Trump property once, which I kind of like.
And now, here's the host of the Sam Table, Kevin Klein.
Good evening, good morning, everybody, wherever you are in the world watching today. My name is Kevin Klein. I am the Executive Director of Operation 85. I am a family member related to a U.S.S. Arizona crew member that was killed December 7th, 1941, and is still missing. And I am the host of the Sand Table. What is the Sand Table? The Sand Table is a platform where we can bring information, great stories about the U.S.S. Arizona, about Operation 85, but also recently we've been connecting with a lot of other family members from other conflicts of war who have had missing family members, unrecovered family members, and they're coming to us not only to tell us their story, but also to come to us really for help. And we've been able to use our resources and use the things we've learned the last year with Operation 85 to help other families. Real quick, as we always do, we're going to quickly go over the numbers with Operation 85. And we've had a huge update from March of the 1st of March. The Navy reported, we're not going to go too down deep with these numbers, but the Navy had reported 303 now total crew members of the U.S.S. Arizona are fully represented with DNA. Remember, just less than a year ago, we were at 18. And with all the work from Operation 85, the family members rallying around us, getting their kits in, we're now at 303 crew members fully represented, with many, many more on the way. And I'll just point out that second number down there you see below it in green, 410. That is the number of family members that have received kits, and if they get their kits in, that would be the number of crew members represented if we can get all our family members to get those kits in, 410. So if you are a family member and you have that DNA kit sitting on your kitchen table, on your dining room table, on a shelf somewhere, please grab it, open it up. It only takes a few minutes to do. Swab those cheeks, put it back in. Everything is paid for, postage paid for, packaging is done. Swab those cheeks, get that kit in, send it out to the lab, because if we can get all our family members the DNA as of today, we'd have 410. And remember, we're trying to get to that number of 643, which is the Department of Defense 60% threshold goal to begin officially working on the U.S.S. Arizona project. So we are creeping up very quickly on that number of 643. So family members, get those kits in. A little bit of business we have to do before we start the show. As always, we want to thank our sponsor. List with Elizabeth not only sponsors the Sand Table show, but she has been sponsoring the entire cost of Operation 85 for the last year. And it's been quite costly to do. But so what is List with Elizabeth? List with Elizabeth is a real estate agent referral network. So if you are buying or selling a home or residential home anywhere in the country, Elizabeth can find you a great agent. If you're one of those friends of ours that are moving out of California and you're moving into a new state in Florida or Texas or wherever you're going, we've had a lot of those lately. You're going to need a great agent to sell that home in California. You're going to need a great agent to get you a new house in Florida or Texas or wherever you decide to go. So give Elizabeth a call. She has supported us for the past year on all of our operational costs. So we would appreciate if you support her back. 703-829-LIST is her phone number, and listwithelizabeth.com is the website. Okay, now to the show. Today's guest is someone I'm very, very excited about. Mainly because this person was the I guess the catalyst for all the politics involved in Operation 85. And I knew that it was going to become, we would need political support. We would need some way to get involved with politics. This wasn't going to just happen magically. And honestly, although I live outside of DC, I had no clue how to break that door down and start getting politics involved in the U.S.S. Arizona. And I guess by the universe, by the grace of God, this Facebook post comes up on my Facebook page. Now, I did not follow Mr. Collins' Facebook page, so how this showed up on my Facebook page about a month after I was interested in doing the U.S.S. Arizona project, I have no idea. We'll just say it's by the grace of God. But this is a picture of Mr. Collins, and you see in that black T-shirt, he is standing next to the wall at the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific in Oahu, Hawaii. And he's standing next to the name of his uncle, who at the time, when that black shirt, he was missing from the Korean War and unidentified, never found, wasn't accounted for. And you can see that picture next to him holding his cute little girl there against the same wall, same spot, a couple of years later. And you can see there's a little medallion down there. And that medallion signifies that Mr. Collins' uncle was identified and brought home. And we want to invite our good friend, Mr. Neal Collins, on the show. Neal, are you there? Let's bring you in here. There he is.
Kevin. Yes, good to see you.
Neal, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for the invite. And you just made me get a little emotional seeing that old post of mine.
Well, it's like I said, it's crazy how it came up, but that's sometimes how God works and the universe works. And bam, it was right there. And I got to tell you, you were the start of this. I had reached out to you. We had a connection because of that experience with you. And I said, man, I need a way. I need a few doors opened. And you were gracious enough to kind of start me on that path politically. And you opened a lot of doors for us in South Carolina. And I know we're going to talk today, Neal, about your Uncle John. But I want to bring up something before, and I thought you might find this interesting. When you and I first met a year ago, I had shown you a list of 9 South Carolinians that were crew members aboard the U.S.S. Arizona, which obviously had a connection with you, being a South Carolinian yourself. And at the time, none of them had any family representation. And I thought you would find this really interesting. I'm going to bring this up. We pulled this on Monday for the stat. As you can see, these are the 9 South Carolinians that and when we started, none of them had a family connection. And today we have 5 that are completely represented at the lab by DNA family members. We have another one on the way, so that'll be 6. And we're just looking for 3 more. And I want to first thank you for this. Yeah, it's great. And I really think South Carolina has led the way. And I wish other states and other politicians would kind of use this as a model, because what happened was you posted on social media and you posted on your email to your constituents. Congressman Jeff Duncan, South Carolina, did the same. Senator Lindsey Graham's office did the same. They were helpful in not just trying to get involved and do the work that we're doing, but really all they did was help kind of get the word out. And by getting the word out, I think if you remember, there was a Veterans Association that had read the email information from Jeff Duncan, and they created their own memorial and honored these guys in South Carolina. The news was there. That connected us with more families. It kind of snowballed in South Carolina because of that. And hey, buddy, it all started with you. So thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All I did was make a post, but Kevin, Operation 85, this has been just amazing what you're doing. And I know we're going to get into it, but I take it from a family member standpoint. It's just, it's life-changing to know that your family members, your close family members are recognized and recovered and everything.
Right. And I'm really excited to hear your story, because your story is a success story from the DPAA and from all those the people that are working so hard to identify these Americans. People have said that I push the DPAA too hard, and really what I would like to do, and I don't think anyone would not support me in this, I think they need more awareness and more resources to what they're doing, because for us and for our family, for World War II, time is what's going to kill these projects. It's the passage of time and the passage of family members that are passing away. We are connecting with brothers and sisters that are 80, 90 years old that are so excited that we've called them and we want to do this. But, probably most of them are not going to live long enough to see the end result of this. And so it's not a matter of trying to, be a rogue family member being upset and, calling the DPAA the evil person that's not looking for our family. We want the DPAA to look for everyone's family, but we also recognize they need the resources and they need the money and the funds and the support of all politicians and of all Americans to do this. So hopefully Operation 85 is not just, we don't want to just go out and look for our own and say we're done. We want to bring awareness to this. We want to bring funding to this. We want to bring resources to this so they have what they need to get the job done, because these workers at the DPAA, they really, really want this to happen, and they're great workers. Let's talk about your uncle. And now your uncle was a Korean War, and we're going to bring up something here. Here he is right here. PFC John Russell Bowers, born July 22nd, 1932. And let's pull this off of here. U.S. Army, he was in the Korean War. He was a member of Company L, 3rd Battalion, 9th Infantry Regiment, 2nd Infantry Division. And I hope we got that right. I think that cool looking patch there with the Indian Chief is the 2nd Infantry Division logo. And I apologize, Army guys, if we got that wrong, but I think that's the 2nd Infantry Division. Neal, how much did you know about your uncle growing up? I mean, obviously, as a kid growing up, you had a missing, uncle, family member that was missing. How much did you know about him?
Yeah, so obviously didn't know him personally. I was born in 82. And in fact, my mom was born in 1954, so 3 years after he died. My mom was the baby of 12 here in South Carolina. And so she didn't know her brother or my uncle. Growing up, I felt a sense of service because not only did I have Uncle John die in Korea, but I had another uncle that died in Vietnam, and I'm named after another uncle, Uncle Neal, who was a veteran, but he died as a police officer in Georgia. So I have 3 uncles that have passed in some sort of service, and so the stories primarily around my Uncle Neal, and that was my uncle my mom was the closest to. And again, she didn't know Uncle John, but her stories, just typical family stories. And for me, the way that he impacted me is growing up knowing that I had 3 uncles, and one of whom I'm named after dying in service. That kind of put me on the trajectory that I'm on.
Gotcha. We did a little bit of research and tried to find out a little bit about John's situation, and maybe we can kind of walk you through this and maybe some things you knew or didn't know, but we did our best here. On February 11th, 1951, Private First Class Bowers was engaged in a battle against the enemy forces in the vicinity of Changbong-ni. Did I say that right? I don't know. Changbong-ni, the Republic of South Korea. Enemy forces overwhelmed the 9th Infantry Regiment, and they were forced to withdraw to a more defensible position. And when you say enemy forces, they were fighting the Chinese at that point in North Korea. So on February 14th, 1951, Bowers was reported missing in action. And February 14th is an interesting date we'll talk about in a few minutes. Remember that Valentine's Day. Obviously, John was taken as a prisoner of war while fighting the enemy in South Korea on February 14th, 1951. It was December 26th that we found in 1951, about seven months later. So the Chinese forces reported that your uncle had died May 3rd as a result of friendly fire. A lot of the research we did on that showed that a lot of times when they did report American casualties, they always said friendly fire. But the sad truth of it is a lot of them were killed and died in those camps. They were pretty rough to be in, as I'm sure you can imagine. Don't have, obviously none of us were there. We don't know exactly what happened, but we did find some inferences and some evidence online that might have shown he was actually killed by a camp guard. Again, not 100% sure, but very interesting. Between 1991 and 1994, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, North Korea, turned over to the United States 208 boxes of human remains believed to contain more than 400 U.S. servicemen who fought during the Korean War. And as we mentioned before, the good news is John's remains were accounted for, officially announced. Look at that, February 14th, 2015. That is 64 days after he was reported missing. And then he came home properly buried, and his family members March 21st, 2015, Greenville Memorial Gardens in Greenville, South Carolina. Neal, I hope we got that information correct and did John's story justice. We're happy that he had a successful homecoming, and that's what we want for all our Americans. Is there anything that you might know of or could add to that story?
Not much. We did have we do have his records and how it was assumed that he was surrounded, and that would be the only thing that I would add. The only other thing that I would add that's not really part of his story, but part of my story is our family found out on Christmas Eve of 2014 that they had identified his remains, and it just so happened that I was in Hawaii at the time. I'm also a college wrestling official, and I was doing a tournament out there, and so that's why that picture that you started off with was very ironic to me, and then being able to have the opportunity to go back and to see the emblem, it's kind of full circle on it.
I got to ask, what was the reaction? I mean, obviously, this probably came out of the blue to your entire family. What was the reaction of your family like? And I'm sure there was phone calls and all kinds of things going on. What was the reaction like? Explain that.
Yeah, so my mom, as the baby of 12, and now, well, she for past at least decade before then was trying to help with the identification process, sending in her DNA and participating in the national chapters and stuff. And ultimately, she received the call, and she knew that I was in Hawaii, and we had already discussed that I was going to go to the memorial and take pictures, and she wanted me to, copy it and with stenciling and stuff. And then her being able to call me and say that they have called her on Christmas Eve of all days, and being there at the same time, talking about how things kind of work wonders, or how God gets involved. It was just a very, very good story that kind of, I know, made my mom extremely happy. And we were at that point able to start planning his funeral, 64 years later, which one thing I would like to say, I mean, DPAA, I can understand that some families would criticize, but you're in multiple countries, the resources that you have, and trying with new technology and having access to certain locations, just a very, very difficult task at hand. But what is cool that I really enjoy is that our country thinks enough to even have a DPAA to where they want to find remains of people, service members that are in different countries. So to any extent that I can, I support DPAA and highlight what they do, and hopefully we won't leave anybody behind.
Absolutely. No one can argue with the amazing mission that the DPAA does. And I think civilian organizations like ours, and there's many others out there, we can just kind of be a support in a way. I understand a lot of the frustration that comes. I had a lot of frustration at the very beginning, Neal, because really the answers I was getting at the very beginning just made no logical sense to me. As you get more and more along in the project and you understand, like you said, all the investigations and everything that has to be done to leading up to this, the planning, just everything. It's massive. It's massive. And in our case, it was so massive, they thought it was impractical to do. And so we were able to step up and do what we believe is the massive part. And hopefully, we're looking for them to potentially reconsider. Let me ask you
I would
this.
also add, even as a family member that remains have been found, it wasn't a full body, of course. It was, and I don't know if the public understands that we received a set number of bones that have been positively identified. So, there's still a part of me that would like to find the rest of my uncle type of situation. So just to kind of inform the public that it's not a, in our case, at least, it was not a full body. It was not. So we still have frustrations as well. We So I certainly understand kind of both sides of it.
Right. And I had an opportunity this morning to look over some of the documents you sent me of John's of his records, and also of the information that all the DPAA sent you, which is very nice to see. But they did put a caveat at the very end. We may find more remains down the road. You just never know. Technology changes, opportunities change, more remains may come in, and they'll be able to identify more of him. So you're right. It's not a full resolution, especially since there's only a partial remain in there. Let me ask you something, because you talked about your family's reaction. Obviously, there was now a homecoming in South Carolina for an American service member. Tell me about the energy and the reaction of your town, of your county, of your area for bringing home a U.S. American in such a way.
Yeah, it was kind of weird for me. I was first elected to the South Carolina House of Representatives in November of 2014. So in Christmas Eve of 2014 is when I was in Hawaii, and our family found out. And then we're having a funeral that was 64 years late in March, and I really just started serving in January. So the timing of it was very interesting for me. And as you would expect, anybody that knew the situation or heard it on the news or anything like that, they were extremely supportive. Most had not heard of any civilian or government entity that was searching for remains or service members. So I think that knowledge kind of inspired people. And as you would expect, it was anybody that knew anything about it was extremely excited and supportive of our family and the whole idea.
Right. Let me get your reaction, when we first met and I told you what I was doing, especially since you had that experience with the DPAA, kind of doing it on their own. It wasn't something that anyone had generated. What was your initial reaction when you heard that, family members were having to do some of the grunt work of identifying American service members? And how do you feel about that? Is it appropriate? And, what was kind of your reaction hearing that?
Obviously you want government, with especially our military members, to do everything possible to not leave anybody behind and to give comfort to family members who lost family members. So I think one valid frustration is we need to invest more in these programs, and we need to do everything within our power to do so. I think groups like Operation 85, I think they certainly have a place. There needs to be an advocacy group to push elected officials to do what's necessary, because, as you mentioned, we're losing. Our battle is with time. And if our Korean War veterans, our Vietnam veterans, especially, each day that passes, all this becomes a little bit more difficult. So we need advocacy groups and organizations to lobby our elected officials and to make this a priority. So I think it's everybody on the table. Let's work and do what we can. And there is no one entity that should be involved. It should be all of us.
We found a special way to complement the DPAA and the casualty offices. We're working with 2 casualty offices on the Arizona, because they were both Navy and Marines killed aboard the U.S.S. Arizona. And it's been I wouldn't say a battle, but it's been an interesting voyage to find a way for a civilian organization that came out of the blue. And I don't think really they had confidence that we were going to do what I said we were going to do on day one, but we've slowly kind of proven that we were able to do the work they need to be done. And we found kind of this happy medium of collaboration, and slowly that collaboration has become more and more, and the trust has become more and more. And that's why we're seeing the numbers that we're seeing. And I, not only the DPA, but I have to tell you, Neal, it's the casualty offices that really are on the ground running, speaking with the family members. There is no communication with the Defense, POW, MIK Accounting Agency, the DPAA, and family members until the project gets so far along that they want to communicate with you the way they did after finding someone. But most of that communication comes really from the casualty offices. They're understaffed. They need more resources. They're the ones directly answering, family member questions. Certainly, we've put a heck of a load on them from the U.S.S. Arizona, adding almost 800 family members to their questions and answering. And that's why we try to also do shows like this and give our family members information, because we don't want to overbear the casualty offices. So anything else? I mean, this was a great story. I love
to your credit, though. I mean, if you can imagine over the past, let's just keep it to the past 50 years of how many family members have tried to get involved or tried to create an organization or some sort of momentum to doing a certain project, and how many of those just failed because they didn't have the resources or they didn't have a champion, like you have been with Operation 85. So I think, and this is my being on the elected official side and putting that cap on, I'm constantly, and I've had 2 meetings this morning about different issues and advocacy groups, and to try, I guess, for you and Operation 85 to prove your worth and how you can move the needle on identifying and on recovering and returning service members. I think that's a testament to your hard work and the organization as a whole. And I think that's an important process for a governmental agency to know that this is not just a one family member who's probably won't be able to get the resources and get the support needed. But credit to you and everything that you've done.
I appreciate that, Neal. Now, it's funny when I was talking to my team about bringing you on and I was having some question idea, I accidentally slipped. I don't know whether it was a Freudian slip, Neal, or what, but I said Senator Neal Collins. And I don't know why that came out, but then when I said it, it just sounded so good. So, just completely off the topic here. How are things going in South Carolina politics? Is there any interest in moving up the ladder? Are you happy where you are? You've been a representative a long time. We're going to see you here in D.C. What's going on with Neal Collins?
I've been called much worse than senator in my life, so I'll take that, Kevin. But no, we actually have an open seat in the House right now. Our Congressman Jeff Duncan, he's not running again, and no, I am not running. My priority now is I have a 21-month-old that you saw in that picture, and I can't imagine flying up to DC and back every week. It's tough enough driving down to Columbia every day while we're in session and coming back. So I'm in the stage of life where my young family is the most important, but we'll see.
Well, I appreciate it. We'll see if that changes anytime soon. Okay. You never know with you politician guys. You always say no, and then you go up there. But I totally understand putting the family first. Congratulations on that. You have a beautiful young daughter. Again, Neal, thanks so much for coming on. Thanks for telling your story. Thank you for, again, supporting Operation 85 the way you did at the very beginning and kind of getting the ball rolling with politics, and it's greatly appreciated. You certainly were a part of this mission, and you'll be a part of the success, and I'm more than happy to give you the credit that you deserve to kind of get that politics rolling. So from myself and all the family members, we're very grateful.
I appreciate it, Kevin. Well, I appreciate you.
All right, Neal, thanks again, and we appreciate it, and we appreciate you coming on.
All right, take care.
All right, everybody. That was our show. Great guy, Neal. He's been a big help with us and Operation 85. We want to remind you, if you want to support Operation 85, you can go to our website, USSArizona.Navy. We have social media you can follow, and we're going to be doing these shows every week now. This is the best way to get information out. We just decided to go ahead and do it. It's just kind of, I don't know, it's just working. People are liking it. So with that, let's see. Anything else I need to do? No. Next week we're doing a show with John Hardy, Danny Abell. We may get Melindy, our DNA scientist, on to talk Operation 85 and the numbers. Join us next week. Thanks again for everybody, and we'll see you next time.